Tony, and this will be the very first episode of my Landlord news channel. I decided to start this channel so that I could share some of the news going around that could relate to landlords every day. So stay tuned and let's get this thing started. Okay, my first story is from the Christian Science Monitor, and it's called Small Scale Landlords and Renters Both Struggling During Pandemic. So, as everyone who knows me knows, I am a small scale landlord. I have 16 rental units in total in between 3 different states, Arizona, Nebraska, and Missouri. So this article hits close to home. I've done okay so far during the pandemic, but we'll see if things change. Okay, so Clarence Hammer doesn't expect to hang on to his house much longer. His downstairs tenant owes him nearly $50,000 in back rent on the 4-bedroom duplex he owns in Brownsville, Brooklyn. Without those rental payments, Mr. Hammer has been unable to pay the thousands he owes in heat, hot water, and property taxes. In September, after exhausting his life savings, he stopped paying the mortgage too. Now, could you imagine the situation getting to that point where you're a landlord, such as myself, and you're losing all of everything you have, and it's not necessarily due to the fact that the coronavirus exists, but due to the fact that your tenants can't pay rent because of the coronavirus. So that's a very, very bad situation to be in. I don't have any corporate backing or any other type of insurance, said Mr. Hammer, a landlord who works for the city of New York. All I have is my home, and it seems apparent that I'm going to lose it. So this guy, like me, also works a full-time job for the city of New York, and he's just a part-time landlord. America's mom-and-pop landlords, along with their tenants, have been dangling by a thread for 9 months. Now, with Congress still deadlocked over the contours of a second pandemic stimulus package, they are entering a new housing abyss, a perilous period of pandemic limbo as the last of the safety nets are set to expire. The day after Christmas, the extended unemployment benefits that have kept 12 million people and their families afloat are scheduled to expire. Then, mere days after that cliff, on New Year's Day, a national ban on renter evictions from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention is also set to lapse. Yeah, that's a lot of things that could go bad all at one time. And it won't be bad just for the renters. It could mean essentially that there's just going to be a ton of landlord bankruptcies as well. Much of the focus has been on tenants, but Stacy Johnson Cosby, president of the Kansas City Regional Housing Alliance, says more than 40% of the landlords surveyed in her coalition said they expected to have to sell their units in the coming months due to rental income losses. So people are going to be selling their properties because they're losing so much money. And when they sell them, they're not going to be selling them, especially for the single family landlords, they're not going to be selling them to other landlords. They're going to be selling them to people who are going to live in those homes. Basically, markets are going to be losing rental properties because of that, and it's going to be even harder for renters to find places to live. They are sheltering our citizens free of charge, and there's nothing we can do about it, said Mrs. Johnson Cosby. This is their retirement income. She added that small landlords are also terrified of speaking out for fear of drawing the ire of tenant rights groups who promote cancel rent and have bombarded landlords with publicity campaigns featuring their pictures and barricades at apartment buildings and local courthouses. What they don't realize is that if they run us out and we fail, it will be private equity and Wall Street firms that buy up all of our properties, just like they did with houses after the last foreclosure crash. And that's pretty true. The big players in this game, they will survive. They can follow, they have more cash reserves. They can follow new rules and procedures. They can allow, tenants not to pay for a much longer period of time than a small landlord such as myself with just 16 rental units. So if my properties get taken and then a private equity firm comes in and takes over, they're not going to be lenient with tenants like I would be. Pandemic deadlock. A $908 billion second stimulus relief package proposed by a bipartisan group of senators is gaining traction in Washington, but it's unclear if President Trump will support the plan. And it only includes $25 billion for rent relief, far from the $70 billion needed in January. President-elect Biden has indicated he will sign executive orders the day he takes office extending moratoriums on evictions and foreclosures, as well as other relief measures. Now, my biggest problem with that is he's basically just going to delay the problem. And a lot of the things that he's proposing doing are going to fall directly onto landlords instead of onto the government. So the government won't give us money so that we can pay our bills. They'll tell us we can't evict anybody, so we basically go slowly bankrupt, but they won't give us the money so that we can pay our bills. So everyone's going to lose. What we need is direct cash infusion. We need a direct cash infusion so that we can keep paying our mortgage, and that way we can keep our tenants in our properties for a little bit longer. But let's go on. But that will not address a brutal 20 days in January between the safety net expirations and Mr. Biden's inauguration, when the free fall will begin. And economists say this period of uncertainty has already contributed to economic scarring that could threaten the United States' economic recovery, which is showing signs of slowing and veering back into recession. Though Mr. Biden will likely be telegraphing his administration's solutions in the coming weeks, the reality on the ground is going to be very dark, with people losing homes in the dead of winter during a pandemic, said Moody's Mr. Zandi. It's going to be very painful and devastating. There's going to be a lot of people who fall through the cracks. So I'm not going to read the rest of this article. It kind of goes on about the rest of the issues, that landlords and tenants are facing. But my focus is on what us landlords are facing. And the truth of the matter is that unless we receive direct economic stimulus from the government in order to pay our mortgages and to pay our bills, then we're not going to make it with these eviction moratoriums, etc. Now, I personally have been very lucky. I haven't had any of my tenants here in Omaha miss a single rent payment. Now, I don't know if that's because they're receiving unemployment or if they're working again or not, but for now, I've been able to pay all of my bills. I have gone through one sort of eviction in my property in Missouri. I own 4 duplexes there, and right when I was getting ready to evict because of non-payment, the tenant moved out on their own. So that wasn't an issue. I was able to get that unit rented again, and I'm fully cash flowing on all 16 units right now. So I've been very, very fortunate. For a lot of the landlords in other places, especially places with more strict rental moratoriums with a lot more rules and regulations such as rent control and more powerful tenant boards, they are dying. They are just simply put dying, and they will not survive unless someone steps in there to help them out. So for now, that's all the news that I have, and be sure to like and subscribe, and there will be more to come soon.